If you believe that humans lived in caves and evolved, it would only be natural that pigeons and man would have interacted from day one. We were living in the same environment. We were interacting in the same cave or cliff setting.
They are the first domesticated bird.
Possibly the second domesticated animal completely.
In the very beginning, they were domesticated for food and for fertilizer.
They produce 12 to 30 babies a year. That's a reliable food source.
Once they domesticated pigeons to eat them, they noticed that there was a lot of other traits that were interesting and perhaps valuable.
They had this homing ability. They could be used for message carrying.
And this apparently was discovered by accident. You would buy some pigeons at a market, you'd bring them back to where you live, and then they would fly back to the market.
The pigeons that you see here in North America are not native, of course. They arrived in North America with the Northern Europeans who settled in Nova Scotia and Canada.
Because they were really hardy, they could survive the long voyage, and then they could just build a tiny little space for them, just a box, and they would breed and reproduce quickly.
Some of them escaped, and they formed feral populations. Those are the pigeons that you see right now in cities. They're descendants of these domesticated pigeons that were brought over.
And it's unfortunate that pigeons tend to get a bad rap. They're considered flying rats or vermin, when for the vast amount of our history they were always looked at too as a friend, a companion, something of value.
The history of cities is a history of expelling nature. We have space for animals, but they're supposed to be in manicured parks and gardens, right? And pigeons transgress these boundaries without knowing it. They nest and mate and defecate on our air conditioners, on our window ledges, and by doing so, they kind of cross this boundary between the city and nature. That's one of the reasons why they bring our wrath.
Usually it goes like this. People want to be kind to pigeons. They really enjoy pigeons, and they feed pigeons.
Oh, I love it. When I come with the bird seed, they all come flying to me at a certain spot where I feed them every morning.
And suddenly you've got this enormous flock of pigeons coming to be fed every day.
I could walk half a block away, and there's nothing to distinguish me from anybody else. But they come down before I even get to the corner. They're there.
This enormous flock of pigeons, like with any enormous group of animals, is going to cause problems.
They have extermination services.
They can be poisoned.
There's roost inhibitors.
There's, of course, cats. The weather can be brutal.
There's visual products.
Red-tailed hawks and peregrines.
There are sound products.
Pigeons get run over by cars. They crash into windows.
And then there are also additional physical roost inhibitors.
They don't live very long. I would say probably about 2.5 years. And the majority of the time, they'll get killed off when they're very young. You don't think about pigeons and how they survive, but it is a tough life for pigeons in terms of their daily day and bringing up their young, finding nesting spots, finding food, and surviving around humans. It is a tough life out there. And they find ways of surviving. To me, it's remarkable.
The first thing I think is I admire them for their adaptability. There's this concept that biologists use called synanthropy. Synanthropy literally means together with man.
Because they've been around human beings for so long, they're not timid, as you may have seen here in the city.
They don't just adapt and survive upon mingling with civilization. They do better.
I admire their ability to wreak a little bit of havoc. We'll say an underpass, right? They can take over and rule a roost for very long periods of time. They're unwilling to move because they've made their decision.
I see more synanthropy. I see more species adapting. I see the animals that we do have figuring out more and better ways to thrive in built environments. And so we shouldn't think of these kinds of animals as the incomplete removal of nature. It's quite the opposite.
What would a city be like without any pigeons? I think it would be kind of boring.
I find them just beautiful. I find them an interesting bird, a bird that's just managed to make it. If you're careful and you watch, you'll see.
We are the architects of a new wilderness. We pour rivers of concrete and raise cliffs of steel and glass. But weeds persist, wings lift, and life braves our drafted frontier. If you're careful and you watch, you'll see a species that adapts, a bird that thrives, a neighbor that invites us to explore the urban wilds. You'll see.